Monacious greetings guys, I prepared a little tutorial for you on distributing elements for large scenes to save memory, allowing your computer to even handle the biggest beasts. So, I have this box on layer 2 which I would like to distribute over the rack on layer 1. It's an extraordinary box, it's the most beautiful box you've ever seen, it is absolutely fantastic. Let me show you this beauty. I'm just making a little render box here. And I was thinking of a name, maybe let's call it Boxy. Okay, actually it's just a simple cardboard box. So if we were to duplicate the box, we would quickly run out of memory when there are a lot of hierarchs populating the scene, all of them having boxes on them and whatever stuff. And whilst duplicate groups might help us out here, there is an even better solution, which is using a particle system to distribute the box all over the racks. Alright, so here's how that works. Let's go back to layer 1. Let's start with the plane which we position on the palette. Select the palette top and in edit mode select the top face. Position your cursor at that face with Shift S, cursor to selected, and then add your plane using Shift A, add plane. Of course you need to add that plane in edit mode to have it as a separate object. So mesh, plane, and swoop, there's your plane. Now let's scale it down a bit so it fits the palette space. Just to be safe here, let's press Ctrl A and apply the scale. Okay, so depending on how many boxes you want to distribute, make loop cuts using Ctrl R and try to keep it evenly spaced. If you use mouse wheel up or down, you can control the number of loop cuts, which will automatically be evenly spaced out. Beautiful. So the number of vertices will define the number of distributions. Just saving real quick using Ctrl S. It's time to add a particle system to the plane. These funky stars here indicate the particles tab. Now let's add a new particle system. Change the emitter type from emitter to hair. This will grow a multitude of strings on our plane which we don't really want, so click on Advanced and change the emission number to 16, which corresponds with the plane vertex count. Also change it to verts as we want to distribute on the verts, and uncheck random as we want them to be evenly spaced. Also make sure to use your modifier stack as it will allow you to do some fancy animations to your particle system, which I will show you later. Let's check rotation and select the object X in my case. This might differ in your scene though, depending on the related object. In the render tab of the particle system, we can choose our cardboard box and already see it distributed. Unfortunately, I didn't set the object X in my recording first, so I'm doing it now. Let's adjust the size of the cardboard box so they fit up against each other as they would when stacked up. To close the gap between the rows, we need to adjust the plane in object mode using S to scale it. Here I am in orthographic top view, scaling along the X-axis. Now apparently it preserves the object's rotation when we rotate the particle system plane. But once you actually confirm the rotation, so use R then type 90 to rotate the object 90 degrees, we see it rotated relative to the parent plane. This is due to the initial rotation that we defined earlier. Okay, cool, but we want to make more particle boxes, so let's just add more geometry to the plane. In edit mode, go Shift D to duplicate the vertices and move them up along Z by pressing G and then Z. Position the newly created vertices on top of the generated boxes. Now all we need to do is to increase the input number by the factor of 2 as we just duplicated the vertex count. And there you go, even more boxes. At the top you might want to have some randomly picked boxes, so let's delete some of the vertices there and adjust the number of distributions to the exact number of vertices. Okay, so select some of the top vertices and delete them using X. And as always, just check the vertex count of your planes and input the number to your emission count. Cool. This way you can add some randomness, like if people picked some boxes off the top. As a final step, you can duplicate the planes and move them up along the Z-axis. If you want the boxes to look the same, just use Alt-D to duplicate using less memory. If you intend to make some changes to the new planes, then use Shift D, though this will use more of your memory. Please make sure that you also disabled emitter under the renders tab, so the plane won't render when you export your animations or images. Here's a little proof of concept, an excerpt of my latest project animation which I made for Fixus BVBA Belgium. They are experts in building automation and I was commissioned to make a warehouse animation for them, showcasing their products and the advantages of using them. As you can see, I use this technique quite a lot to avoid nasty headaches when trying to animate the scenes. Okay, I promised you to show you why we enabled the modifiers in the Particles tab. The reason being is so you can animate with modifiers. Our setup kind of exposes the particle count to be animated with a build modifier. So go to the Particles tab and search for the build modifier. Here's the beautiful build modifier, just make sure that you put it on top of the modifier stack. You're doing God's work here. Okay, let's set the start frames, which is wherever your animation starts, and the length of the animation. I think I'm using 25 here. As you can see, it builds the geometry over time, and in our case, it builds our box set. Just to clarify again, you need to have the build modifier on top of the particles modifier. Thanks for watching, people. I'm Johannes from Berlin, Germany, and don't forget to subscribe for the upcoming adventures of Boxy, of course.